We've gathered a group from Australia's property, building and design industry to review the best from each state and territory and decide in this final episode of the series which project will be crowned the best architectural statement for the year in Australia. So we brought together the winners from all state and territories. That's 8. But then we've added 2 wild cards from projects we've seen before. That makes the 10. Our team is guided by Victoria's government architect, Jill Garner.
I think every single one I have seen is extraordinarily high quality. High quality thinking, high quality process, and high quality architectural design outcome.
What's been really interesting is looking at some of the differences about our building design and architecture across the country, and also the similarities. We work with the environment, and whether it's buildings that are chasing the sun or shielding ourselves from the sun.
Beginning our countdown comes the winning project for the ACT as judged by our Canberra team. Aidan Mawini from furniture design group Living Edge admired the story of community that underlined this very social project.
Traditionally, this type of housing is pared back, but this particular project really allows the tenants to interact in a much more social way. This is a great example of architecture that can provide hope, dignity to the tenants and actually transform their lives.
It's really about designing a community housing for the people rather than being developer driven. This building is really tenant driven. It's providing spaces that are calm and allow amenity to the people who live here.
And more community spaces, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. Spaces for people to come together, interact with one another, and really get to know one another so that it builds a community rather than just a place to live.
So Sasha, how long have you been living here in this complex?
I've been here approximately about 1.5 years.
Okay.
Welcome to my apartment, David.
Yeah, thanks Sasha. Massage table?
Yeah, I've got a massage table because I'm self-employed as a massage therapist.
Okay.
I run my own business from home.
And this is a really lovely, light-filled, modern apartment.
I was actually really surprised about the price because when I was looking for things that were similar, there was pretty much garages and granny flats, and even they were a lot more expensive as well.
Right, so part of the ethos of this place is to offer contemporary accommodation at affordable prices.
Yeah.
Right, that's fantastic.
Common Ground is a model that's been adopted in New York. It's an answer to homelessness and affordable housing. We have 40 units in this building. 20 units are made up of our affordable tenants. They're people that are on a low to moderate income, and the other 20 units are occupied by our social tenants, which we source from the ACT Housing Register. Mm-hmm. They are what we consider a high risk of homelessness.
And communal gardens and this beautiful community space that we're in here, they're obviously part of what you're offering those tenants as well.
Absolutely. Beautiful spaces for them to be able to connect with Mother Earth outside, which I think is a really healing element, and also a space that they are able to come together and eat, because food, I believe, brings people together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Food is healing, it's nourishing to the body and the soul. So I've witnessed that, and that's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So I know it works.
Good architecture isn't just about beautiful buildings. Good architecture, good design is about the part it can play in transforming people's lives. And Common Ground definitely does that.
Next, project number 9 was judged the winning project in the Northern Territory episode. Daniel Kling of Kling Construction and Developments admired the way this home interacts with its harsh desert location.
The use of energy efficiency, large overhangs, raw materials that they've used is a real feature and is innovative and is why it's one of the best homes that I've seen.
A house should reflect its occupants in their personalities, their intents, and their lifestyle. Now, beyond these solid and commanding walls is a story that originates from the other side of the world.
I came to Australia in 1997, quickly found the desert and loved it and stayed ever since.
And Steve, tell us about your lifestyle in this special house.
Well, we're a couple of cyclists, we own 2 dogs, and so when we came to design a house, our brief to the architect was really a house for 2 cyclists, but we also decided it's also a house for their friends and visitors.
So is this your forever home?
Yes, it is. And we have planned the home to function with us in a good way as we get older. And we hope to be here forever, Steve, don't we?
Yeah, and both of us had always wanted to have a house designed for us, an architectural designed masterpiece. And once you've done it, why would you want to move on and live anywhere else?
We've always felt that the house should be very simple and that the colours should really bring the house to life. And the colour palette we've chosen here actually largely reflects the colours in the landscape outside.
We're a house which gets lots of light. It's got great views in every direction, so you actually don't need to have too much in terms of colour within the house, but the colours that we have is all about reflecting the beautiful colours in the environment. In our summertime it can get really hot, so we wanted a house which can adapt. So during the daytime we can shut our windows, we have our external louvers come down, keep the heat out. We've still got our wonderful shady courtyard internal environment, and then as it cools down you open up, you let the evening in, you let the night cool come into the house and it cools it down.
Well, welcome to our outdoor living space.
Oh, I love this courtyard.
It's our dining area, it's our entertaining area, we have parties here, and every aspect of the house looks into this space, which is a beautiful feature for us to enjoy.
To build a house like this in the desert clearly has its challenges. But they've managed to build a house that's robust, energy efficient, and climate considerate. I'm left feeling energised and inspired.
Number 8 is a wildcard entry from our Queensland episode. The reimagining of a classic Australian design impressed Dana Tossolini of Concepts Interior Design.
The age-old architectural tricks have been applied, but also quite a new trick has been applied in moving the existing residence to the back of the block. And then instead of discarding this residence, the architect has addressed the air, the light and the privacy aspect of this house, and it's just brilliant.
We all know the famous Queenslander, tall timber box on stilts, veranda around the edge. I'm not sure they work as well as they could. House in the middle of a block with room for what? Bin down the side? This project shows a new way of thinking. So Brian, this is every bit the Queenslander, but not as we know it.
So what we've done here is taken the interior spaces and moved them to the edge of the site. We've got these very, very big openings, and therefore you can just take advantage of the garden. The garden is part of your life 24/7. The centre of the site is this room, an outdoor room. It's got a place to eat, sit, a fireplace for atmosphere.
From here I can see the kitchen, living, the whole panorama of the garden. So we are surrounded by the heart of the house.
We wanted to experiment and try something a lot different. I'm a commercial builder by day. We throw out a lot of materials. I wanted to see what we could reuse in the design here.
But at some point along the way, it was no longer an experiment, it became
our home, absolutely.
Each area is a different experience. You've got the pool, you can move across to the trampoline, kick the football on the grass, and then you've got the outdoor room to have dinner. I can be inside with Mia, who's our youngest, and be watching Leon and the boys kick the football out on the grass, and I always feel a part of it.
I'm a sucker for a courtyard house. It brings all that wasted space to the centre where it's needed most. This is a kind of new Queenslander. It allows Emma, Leon, their young kids, Rocco here, to live the kind of healthy life they want outside.
In this final episode in the series, we're reviewing the winners from each state and territory and counting down Australia's top 10 architectural statements for the year. Leading the judging is Matt Lloyd of Lysart and Ken Slattery from Cement, Concrete and Aggregates Australia.
Well, the judging panel this time around for the best of the best has drawn people from right around the country from all sorts of disciplines, from material suppliers, interior designers, architects, you name it, it's there. So this is actually a really representative group and a really good group to judge the best of the best.
Number 7 was the impressive winner of the Tasmanian episode. Justin Gill from Abode New Homes admired the clever, responsible building practices applied to this sensitive project.
This is a very impressive project in the way, not just throughout construction, it's been very environmentally friendly, but during its lifespan on its location. It looks after its own water, it's got its own power. Everything's been designed around the environment to have minimal impact, and it's very impressive.
The Three Capes track is a 4-day walk along the coast of the Tasman Peninsula, with stops each night in the cabins. We're heading to the first one. It's called Surveyors.
Hi Andrew.
Welcome to our office.
Great to be here. So tell me a bit more about the construction process, Andrew.
It's not your normal construction. We're 5 hours walk from the nearest road and everything has to be slung under a helicopter to be brought in.
Yeah, the boys from Voss wouldn't want to have walked these in, would
Yeah,
they?
I wouldn't have either. So if you think of it like a big Meccano set. Windows, the doors, the wall.
And the windows, they're angled down, that's unusual.
Yeah, that's actually to minimise bird strike.
And because it's bolted together, does that mean it can all pull apart?
Yep, so in the event, say in 75 years' time, we want to remove the building, it can be all unbolted, again slung under a helicopter and flown back out again. You've got to remember, this isn't a hotel, it's a bushwalking cabin.
It must be world class in terms of a walker's cabin.
Yeah, it is. We've had people from Canada and New Zealand, marvel at how good they are. We've got hand pumps for the water.
Hand pump?
Yeah, our idea was that water's pretty precious, so we wanted people to work for the water. It's a magnificent place to be. It's sunny, it's protected from the winds, great outlook, and you've got a fantastic view of Cape Row.
Great, yeah, it's absolutely magnificent.
You wait till you see the next one though.
Another interesting aspect about the design I've noticed is the deck. It connects us to everything. And around parts of the deck, they've used different screening methods to create a variety of spaces. One of the spaces is the kitchen area. They've used timber slats at the back that tell us not to look that way. It encourages us to look this way, at, well, this.
So we've used a whole variety of materials. The timber, for example, is really interesting because it has to be bushfire resistant. It's really dense, which means it's also...
It's not going to burn.
Yeah, it's not going to burn. It's also not going to weather a lot. It's going to be at low maintenance.
I think this project has pushed the boundaries in 3 main ways. Firstly, the design process was a massive effort and took 4 years. Secondly, just the sheer logistics of the build. And thirdly, the result. A world-class facility that Tasmanians should be proud of.
Number 6 was the winner of the West Australian episode.
This was a high-stakes project, but they've done it extremely well. The way they've brought the stone cladding, the vertical stone cladding on the exterior of the building, tying that in with the heritage, surrounding heritage buildings. The timber inside, the shape of the roof is very unique. It's a focal point of Perth City.
Do you remember visiting the library as a child? I do. They were austere and dark and cold places, but not anymore. Simon, we're located in the centre of the city of Perth, surrounded by 3 really significant heritage buildings. How did that inform your design?
We wished to create a modern building in this setting, so we came up with the idea of a cylindrical building, a building which opened up to the views of the heritage building, but yet at the same time create an identity for the city.
I'm interested by the diagonal truncation of the roof.
It was really about regenerating the plaza, which is to the south of our building, so we need to allow the north sun in, but at the same time it actually enabled us to have a tall presence with the buildings along Hay Street.
As a mother of 4 children, I was so excited to see that fantastic children's library filled with kids.
Creating areas for the children has been important, and the idea that the storytelling can happen under the tree, somebody telling a story under a tree, people listening, perhaps the original library. Well, we looked to use a very limited palette. For the outside of the building, we used Austral Verde. It's a local Western Australian stone from Norseman. It's a material too that we think shows respect to the heritage buildings around us. Libraries are no longer just repositories for books, they're now social hubs for the community.
This is a truly inspirational building. The architects have managed to reinvigorate a city block as well as transform the City of Perth Library into a meeting place, a place for quiet reflection, and quite literally, the city's lounge room.
Number 5 was the winning project for the Queensland episode. Sam Intel's Kim Rowan praised the inviting and open design.
In terms of clever design and the use of space, the use of natural light, they've managed to still incorporate a lot of natural light, and it'll be a great place to work, and I think it will only encourage the best researchers, the best staff and the best students to want to work in such a building.
Believe it or not, this story starts here. Richard, this doesn't look like your work.
That's right, Tim, but it was a starting point for our new oral health centre. It's a very important building, very important in the landscape here and for the city, and so we controlled our building height with strict reference to this site.
From here it looks to be a 4-storey building.
There's a lot going on in the building. It's 7 storeys with quite a bit buried below the ground. It's a little bit like an iceberg.
You never let me down. You take the mess that I have made and you turn it around.
So Richard, this is no dark classroom, not like what we're used to.
That's true. It's a terrific space. I'll show you something. All of our buildings are really premised on an engagement between inside and outside. It's really easy in the Queensland climate to do that.
So Richard, we're in almost the middle of the building, but there's no building here. What's going on?
Yeah, that's right. It's a 4-storey void. It's an important physical and visual connection between the hospital and the medical school.
So the public come here too?
That's right. It's a key part of the way the building works. So people come here to see dentists or people training to be dentists.
Right. No one likes going to the dentist. How do you design for that?
Lots of green space, lots of light, lots of ways you can see and feel like you can get out of here if you need to.
We're at the top of the building. We really are in the treetops. It seems the building has such a soft edge.
It's one of the best parts of the building, to be honest. The timber, the blinds, the natural ventilation all really come to fruition here. It's got to attract talent. It's got to attract the best researchers, the best students, the best staff. Making a building of a quality like this, it makes a beautiful working place.
Big doesn't have to mean tall. The architects chose to lie this building on its side. It's a really porous building, and it gives everyone a view of those gorgeous trees.
Our team of property, building and design industry leaders are counting down the best of the best from the series to ultimately find Australia's top architectural statement for the year.
What's impressed upon me is the vastness of our country, but specifically how that influences our architecture and our approach to building design and the need to reflect local materials and local conditions.
Next, number 4, the remarkable winner of the New South Wales episode.
As a local to Paddington, I understand what the site could have been developed into, and what we've actually received as a benefit of the Council's foresight is really enhanced the area and certainly given back something to the public.
This site was a really unsafe and inaccessible ruin, and yet a really significant and rare link to Sydney's past. So the question was, what to do? Why didn't you just put a cap over the whole thing, bury it all and put a park on top?
I mean, why didn't we think of that? It would have been so much easier. But what we did find was that there was this incredible ruin here. There's some beautiful crumbling old brick walls, and we thought instead of making a park, it would be fabulous to make a series of urban rooms.
It seems to be bordered by something new and something old, but the lines are blurred.
This screen is an example of that, where you can see that the gap between the screen are in fact bricks. We've conceptually taken the bricks out, and that gave us a lovely kind of matching scale. So it's kind of interesting, we're bringing these two architectures or time periods together. But they're not standoffish, they're really snuggling up to each other.
One of the important ideas was that water should reoccupy the space, and particularly the centre under this beautiful roof. You get the reflections of the arches, and then the garden around that pushes all the circulation to the edge where you experience the beautiful curved wall.
And the planting species.
The Victorian era tended to favour large textures, unusual, exotic plants, so we used that palette.
Do you think of this project as a new project or an old project?
Oh, I think about it very much as a new project, because for us it was about projecting into the future. What could this place be in the future for Sydney? It just happened that in our projection of the future, we embraced the elements that we had inherited.
What makes a city is not the buildings, but the spaces in between. I'd have to say, this space is one of the most remarkable I've ever seen.
The bold statement that is number 3 was the winner of the Victorian episode and highly impressed Chris Ball of CBD Builders.
Right smack bang in the middle of conservative Camberwell, you've got this concrete building that sort of acknowledges that we're moving forward with our Australian architecture. As a builder, I love this project. There's obviously a high attention to detail, great use of a simple palette, but well done.
Hola, bienvenida. Victoria, this is spectacular. And you are Mexican, so your choice of a Mexican architect.
Absolutely, we choose Andres Casillas. He really wants to become our friend, get to know us. So we share a lot of tequila.
So how long did that getting to know you process take?
8 years.
That is an awful lot of tequila.
Come on, Jill, I want to show you just around the pool.
So this is what's hidden around the corner. I love these architectural surprises.
And we are actually standing on some Mexican volcanic stone.
You're kidding, you brought this all the way from Mexico?
Yes.
So somebody had to deliver this project here in Melbourne, and that was you, Matt.
Part of the job was putting together the right team. An important component of the team was the concreter.
I don't think we see enough houses built out of concrete.
It's a beautiful material. It's got a very soft, velvety finish to it.
So Matt, this space up here is really quite unusual. It's got a real sense of compression. I can actually touch the ceiling.
So in here we've got a very low ceiling, so you feel sort of cosy and compressed, and then we come out here to the living areas and it explodes into this, triple story void spaces which are really quite spectacular.
Oh, extraordinary. So after all that tequila and concrete, are you happy with what you've ended up with?
Definitely, yes. I feel we have Mexico in our home every day.
Our select group of industry leaders are down to the final 2 properties of the top 10 architectural statements for the year in Australia.
This has been an extraordinary scan across 8 state and territories, coast to coast in Australia, and across the climate zones as well. So we've seen the true diversity in Australian cities and in the regions.
Number 2 was selected as a wildcard from the Victorian episode. Brett McKay of McKay Timber loved the combination of materials used in this outstanding project.
The choice of materials they have used with the pressed earth in the walls, it's a fantastic choice for what they've tried to achieve on this project. Everyone brought their A game and it shows. It's not just an equestrian centre, it's the Hilton for horses.
When we think about agricultural buildings, we think about simple, robust structures where we don't care too much about the fine detail. This project has an attention to detail that you'd normally find in a home or a gallery. Rob, this was a collaborative effort with Seth Stein Architects in London.
Yes, that's right. Seth and I actually have a very similar approach. We're interested in detail and simplicity.
And we love this curve.
Yeah, the curve's quite deliberate, not only for the framing aspect, but also so the horses in the stalls can actually focus out the activity in the arena. Very limited palette of materials. We dealt with timber, this Tassie oak and spotted gum, rammed earth and a zinc roof.
I love this recessed door handle.
Yeah, well, I'm actually an industrial designer as well, so this level of detail really fascinates me.
It's a bit like an old Land Rover door handle. The whole flush finish is impeccably detailed. It's really way beyond the quality you normally see in a farm building. The rammed earth's an interesting choice. It's a material that's normally found in high-end housing.
Yeah, well, it's a good, honest, robust material.
And the light's coming from both sides of the room. It's a rule that we use in housing.
Yeah, natural light and also cross ventilation at low level here with the windows and doors and at high level with the eaves. But the views are important because horses, like humans, want to be connected to their environment.
They're smart creatures. I mean, I could actually live in here.
And horses do.
Rob, I love the elegance of the roof.
It's a really important factor of the whole building, so we pay a lot of attention to it. We turn our back to the really cold prevailing winds to the south, and it opens up to the north.
And that's exactly the same principle we'd use for a good quality house.
Yeah, and why change that?
Carolyn, how does this facility work for you?
It works well. It's got everything we wanted.
But it's not just functional, is it?
It's beautiful to look
It's a
at.
beautiful building.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Whenever I arrive and I see it at the end of the drive, you know, my heart jumps because it's beautiful.
There's no great buildings without great clients, and I think you should be congratulated.
Thank you very much.
Caroline, the client, clearly understands the value of quality and aesthetics. Working with her architects, this has resulted in a functional and beautiful building.
And now, the judges' pick for number one.
When you think of research buildings, you typically think about historic brick buildings. SAMRI has really broken through it, modern workplace, and really encourages collaboration in the research.
It uses an exquisitely detailed concrete frame. It uses a really interesting cladding design in aluminium panels that control the sun. It really is an extraordinary piece of Australian architecture.
It started something in process because it's actually shown some great confidence in putting a building of quality in this particular environment, and around it will spring other things that will actually take their cues, if you like, from that building.
SAMRI is incredibly innovative and has changed the face of Adelaide. But what's exciting is the change that it's inspiring in the northwest corner of the city. Thomas, this is incredible. What inspired the building form?
Well, we wanted to create an iconic building for South Australia. We wanted the building to stand out and be a flagship of the medical research that the Institute's undertaking here. The facade is quite intentional in terms of the way that it looks. We wanted to wrap the entire building in one form, and we also wanted to triangulate the building as well, because that allowed us to deal with all these complex geometries that you can see here. You can see the building's been also lifted off the ground to create this amazing plaza space here that you can circulate around. It's almost like a spaceship has just landed on this site.
What we had to create was a building in which we could do a whole lot of different sorts of research. There's 650 people in the building, and they all have to have access to the equipment they need access to other people, and that's why it's so open, and the design really facilitates that. It really is a fabulous environment on the inside and a really iconic building on the outside.
I love the way these curves come together in the staircase.
Well, it was quite intentional. We wanted all the spaces here just to flow together. And as the space flows together, it resolves itself in this beautiful staircase that we've created here internally. So we connect all the researchers up here down to this level 4 cafe, where everybody meets and greets, and more importantly, talks about research in a really collaborative and open environment.
What's beautiful about this story is that Samri heralds change for Adelaide and for the future health of South Australians.
To view an extended version of this episode, go to australiabydesign.com.au. Coming soon, Australia by Design looks at new technologies and product design in Australia by Design Innovations.